the safety of the Imam of the time, please recite a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billah min ash-shaytanir la'in ar-rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Thumma as-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal-mursalin. حبيب إله العالمين على القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين على أئمة المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتك. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Please recite the last salawat. Salawat purifies and beautifies the environment, and according to narrations, it purifies one's mouth as well. Please recite a louder salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Dear brothers and sisters, my dear youth, yesterday we spoke about the difference between what it means to have a truthful hope and a hope based upon falsehood. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us something greater in the hereafter, and how the shaitan tries to deceive us with a false hope that this dunya and this world and all of its attractions are everlasting. But a true mu'min, we concluded, is someone who has hope in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we concluded that as mu'mineen, as followers of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, our status is greater, for we are dignified through the leadership of Imam Hussaini alayhi salam. And therefore, a reminder to our youth in the end was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us as free human beings. جَعَلَكَ اللَّهُ حُرًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us for something greater. And Allah has created us as Khalifatullah, His representatives upon this earth, followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So therefore we should truly try to understand our worth and not sell our statuses for the sake of cheap desires in this dunya and disobedience to Allah. We concluded that when a person disobeys Allah, when a person commits a gунah, he commits a sin, then this lowers his status. He sells his status of freedom as a servant of Allah for the status of becoming a slave to the shaitan and a slave to his desires. Even in the final moments of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he calls out to the enemies of Allah, Shimr and the army of Yazid, فَكُونُوا أَحْرَارًا فِي دُنْيَاكُمْ. That if you don't have a religion that you follow, then at least be free in this world. At least be free in this world of yours. When does he say this? He says this when they're about to attack the women and the children. He says, at least have some sense of modesty. Don't sell yourself for every desire that hits your hearts. Please recite it loud, salawat. Karbala, dear brothers and sisters, is a scenario where on one side you have a camp which, although it's oppressed, although they are Muslim and they're surrounded from all four sides, but they are victorious. They know of their victory. They are certain about what their destination is going to be in the company of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the company of Bibi Zahra sallallahu alaiha. Their ideology is based upon a truthful hope. Surrounding them are all these men, soldiers of Yazid, who think that they are victorious, although they might think that they are physically victorious in the physical sense, but all of their belief and their presence in Karbala is based upon false hope. What is that false hope? That they see this dunya as everlasting. And this is something that I want us to focus on today, dear brothers and sisters, because, at the end of the day, we're living in Akhirah Zaman. We await the arrival of the Imam, Ajjalallahu Faraj Sharif, and hopefully, inshallah, wish to be as the 72 companions were for Imam Hussaini alayhi salam, for the Imam of our time. So, what should we do in order to become loyal to the Imam of our time? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, O you who believe, O you who have come to believe. Belief in what? Belief in the fact that this dunya is temporary and the hereafter is everlasting. This is something that we need to have firm belief in as mu'mineen. That a true mu'min is someone who sells his worldly dreams and desires for the sake of his hereafter. For example, we fast in Ramadan, we give up many of our worldly desires as Muslims, as mu'mineen, for the sake of the rewards of the hereafter and the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But a munafiq, a hypocrite, is someone who, although claims to be Muslim, he claims to be a mu'min, but he sells his hereafter for the sake of this dunya, for the sake of the desires of this world. And I want us to focus on the scenario of Karbala, because we usually have a lot of descriptions about the companions of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam, alhamdulillah. But I want us to focus on the army of Yazid. And according to narrations, about 30,000 to 120,000 soldiers are lined up against Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And in the army of Sayyid al-Shuhada, there's just about 120 people. 120 people versus 120,000. And amongst these 120, there's women and children. But despite all of this, what's amazing is that we have so many descriptions, we have so much of a history about the characteristics and the personality of just these 120, but all of those 120,000, we don't have a lot of descriptions about them. This is one of the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in itself. So despite them being few in number, their names are still alive, and their message is still alive. But regarding these 120,000 men, soldiers of the army of Yazid, it's really important for us to ask ourselves that most of these people call themselves followers of the religion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So which part of their iman, which part of their faith is it that was so weak that it led them to stand against the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Dear brothers and sisters, history says that the army of Umar bin Saad, within this army which was lined up in Karbala, there wasn't a single person from Sham. There wasn't a single person from Sham. Although Yazid, his kingdom is based in Sham, there's not a single soldier in Sham. Or according to a few historical narrations, there may be one person from Sham to the maximum. The rest, or there's 2 or 3 people from Medina. There's no more than that. The rest are all Ahle Kufa. All of the rest are Ahle Iraq. So this means people who are familiar with Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Why? Because as you all know, the government of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was over Kufa. So these people know who Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam are. They recognize the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. They recognize who Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam is. They benefited from Ahlul Bayt. And the army of Umar bin Sa'd in Karbala, I want us to really focus on it. That where did these people come from and why did they come there? The army of Yazid in Karbala can be categorized into 3 groups. The first are those who were the kuffar. They always had a problem with Islam to begin with, meaning since the beginning of the revelation, the beginning of the mission of Rasulullah, they never became Muslim at all. They always stood against Islam, meaning they were anti-Islam from day one. And according to history, the spears and the swords and the arrows were in the hands of this group. This is a group of a minority amongst the army of Umar bin Sa'd. The second group, dear brothers and sisters, were those who were involved in working for the foundations of Islam, believe it or not. A lot of these people, you can say ex-companions of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and ex-companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And these also make up a minority figure of the whole army of Umar bin Sa'd. And I'm just going to mention 3 or 4 names amongst those. One is Thamarat ibn Jundab. He was 18 years old in the Battle of Uhud. He fought alongside Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He gave a sacrifice, but he was in the battle of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, fighting alongside the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, trying to protect Islam at one point. And now in Karbala, he's reached the age of 85. One foot is in the grave, he's almost about to leave this world, he's almost about to die. Instead of taking that opportunity to be a companion of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, he's lined up in the ranks of Umar bin Sa'd against the son of Rasulullah at the age of 85. The second person is a person called Shab'ath ibn Rabi'i, one of the supporters of Amir al-Mu'mineen Islam at one point. This person was present in the Battle of Siffin, and now he's also in the front lines of the army of Yazid in Karbala, ready to kill Imam Hussaini. The third is a person named Harith ibn Abud, one of the supporters of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Battle of Jamal. He fought alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen, and now this person is also present in the ranks of Umar bin Sa'd, ready to attack Imam Hussain. The fourth is, you all know, Shimr ibn Zil-Jawshan la'natullah alayh. He was right next to Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battles. He fought alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen. And according to history, Shimr was at one point a person Ahl Salat. He used to recite the night prayers. Apparently he walked to Hajj more than 10 occasions during his life. They say that he used to recite Munajat at one point. But now he's on the front line of the army of Yazid, ready to attack Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. And so far we've mentioned 2 groups. The first are the kuffar who are anti-Islam since day one. The second is this group who fought at one point alongside the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. The reason that these people are there is because they didn't receive higher ranks, they didn't receive the status that they wanted from these battles. Their intention wasn't purely for the sake of Allah. And then the fact that they didn't receive these positions after fighting, for example, alongside Amir al-Mu'mineen or the Prophet, peace be upon him. They built a grudge within themselves against Ahlul Bayt, and then this grudge transformed into hatred against Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So the first group has natural enmity, they are anti-Islam. The second group, they have grudges towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam because they didn't receive some positions that they were greedy for after partaking in the battles. Now let's come to the third group, which was the majority in the number of the army of Yazid on the land of Karbala. This third group, dear brothers and sisters, according to narrations, it comes up to about 100,000 men. These were ordinary civilians, ordinary people of a city. You can say, how we say today, the working class. You have shopkeepers amongst them, you have family men amongst them, you have farmers within these ranks. 100,000 people, not politicians. They didn't have anything to do with positions, they didn't want any positions. These were ordinary people of Kufa, of Iraq. The question is, why have these people come? 100,000 people. Neither did they get any rewards, neither did they receive any gifts for partaking in this battle of Karbala. And it says that even those rewards, because as you all know, when people used to partake in the battles at that time, they were obviously paid something, they were given some sort of wages, or they were given some fortune. But the fortunes of this army of Yazid were given to the first two categories. But these 100,000 people, at those times 100,000 people is a population of a whole city. I don't know exactly how much of a population this city would have now, but just imagine that, for example, the whole of Newport is emptied and every single citizen is lined up against Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Just imagine that the whole of the city has become empty. Everyone's gone to Karbala to line up against Ahlul Bayt. And what's strange is that Umar bin Saad, he sends a letter to Ibn Ziyad, who was governing Kufa at that time. He said that, listen, you're sending all of these people, 100,000 people, and I don't even have enough food to take care of them. I can't manage all these people, I don't have enough food for them. So, dear brothers and sisters, this means that not only did they not receive any fortunes, not only did they not receive any wages, but they didn't even have enough food, enough proper food. So again, why have these people come to line up against the son of Zahra? And it said that as these people were leaving the city of Kufa, as they were heading towards Karbala, Ibn Ziyad, he orders the soldiers to gather stocks of dates, and as these people are leaving Kufa, to hand them one handful of dates to each person as they go. 100,000 people, they're given one handful of dates to survive while they go to Karbala. So why have these people come? Is the big question. How did Ibn Ziyad and Yazid convince these people to go to Karbala and stand against the Wali of Allah, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, with one technique, dear brothers and sisters, my dear youth, and I want you to pay close attention. Before that, there's an ayah of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and this is part of the answer, Surah Tawbah, ayah number 37. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ma lakum idha qila lakum infiru fi sabilillah, إِثَاقَلْتُمْ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. O you who have come to believe, but your belief has become weak, your faith has become weak. What is the matter with you that when Ibn Ziyad tells you to go to the battlefield, you're ready to go? But when Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the one you invited to Kufa, is ready to lead you, and then you fear for your lives? What's the matter with you? The ayah says that when you are asked to march forth in the cause of Allah, You cling firmly to your land. Why is it that when Ibn Ziyad tells you to go, you go, but when Imam Hussain tells you to go to the battlefield, you fear for your lives? And the answer is in this ayah. Allah says, أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, that you've become pleased with this temporary life of yours, this temporary dunya that you live in. أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيا. And so the answer is that Ibn Ziyad just had to say one sentence to make all of these people of Kufa go and stand against Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And I want everyone to, so especially our youth, to take this home with you tonight. Ibn Ziyad says to the people of Kufa, 100,000 people of Kufa, if any of you wants to live for another day, if you want to breathe for another day, then you have to pay a price for that. What is the price for you to live? He said that I, Ibn Ziyad, will not allow you to live for another day if you don't pay this price. What is the price? He said that you have to announce your allegiance to Bani Umayyah, and you have to announce your hatred and disassociation with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. You have to announce your hatred and enmity towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Announce that you're with Yazid, and announce that you are against Hussain alayhi salam, if you want to live. This is what Ibn Ziyad, he threatens them with this. And this is the only option which is given to these 100,000 people. This is the only promise which is given to them. And so all these people of Kufa, all they wanted was to live for another day. And the answer is that this is the part of their iman, this is the part of their faith which has become so weak, that they see this temporary dunya as everlasting, and they see the hereafter as something which is just an imaginary story. And dear brothers and sisters, this is very important for us, for you and I today. In Akhir al-Zaman, Imam Zaman Jalal Faraj al-Sharif needs those companions who were present alongside Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran, تُحِبُّونَ الْعَاجِلَةِ وَتَزَرُونَ الْآخِرَةِ, that the love and the attachment for this temporary world has overtaken their hearts. Please recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Please recite aloud salawat. And it was on basis of this ayah that Ayatollah Bahjat rahmatullah alayhi said that statement that we mentioned yesterday, that we as Muslims, as mu'mineen, as believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or as human beings in general, we've come to this world to gain a prize before Allah, to gain a prize before Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam. We haven't come into this world to sell ourselves for every single price, for every price desire. We've come to this world to gain a prize before Allah, to gain a prize before Imam Zaman Jalal Faraj al-Sharif. And as we said, dear brothers and sisters, we concluded yesterday, جَعَلَكَ اللَّهُ حَرًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed us as free human beings. And so these people, these 100,000 people of Kufa, they had forgotten these verses of the Quran. Ayah number 64, Surah Al-Kabut, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, إِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ, that the real life is on the other side. And all of this around you which you see today, which seems like reality, it's all going to pass in the end. Death comes for everyone. This world isn't going to last. Which is why Imam Hussain alayhi salam says to his companions, Sabran ya banil kiram, famal maut illa qantaratun. He says, O people of dignity, now that we've lined up for the true promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says to his 72 companions, be patient, O people of dignity, for surely this world, this dunya is temporary, and very soon you're going to transfer by death to the everlasting abode, to the hereafter. And these words also rested upon the hearts of the companions, which is why they became who they are today. Which is why when we go to Karbala, we salute these companions. Because true faith and the verses of the Quran rested upon these hearts. And so the Shuhada of Karbala, by recognizing this reality, they had a truthful hope in the hereafter. Dear brothers and sisters, Ibn Ziyad and Yazid and their likes of every single era, because as you all know, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, كُلُّ يَوْمٍ عَاشُورَا وَكُلُّ أَرْضٍ كَرْبَلَا. Every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala. So that means there's Ibn Ziyad and there's Yazids for every single era, for every single time. And so what they want is the forces of the Shayateen. They want to convince people that this life and everything within it is everlasting. They try to decorate it. And they try to prove to humanity that this world and everything within it is more important than the hereafter. And all of these people, dear brothers and sisters of Kufa, all they wanted was to live for another day. Although they believed in these verses of the Quran, they were followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These were people Ahl Salat. They used to pray, they used to go to Hajj, they used to fast. It's not as if they were non-Muslims, no. They knew exactly where they were going wrong. But because the love of the dunya had overtaken their hearts, they were ready to pay any single price but to live for another day. So they wanted their sense of self-security, they wanted their families to remain safe, they wanted their children to remain safe, even if it meant for the children of Zahra salam alayha to be threatened, even if it meant for the women of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be in prison, so long as my family is okay, so long as my children are safe and sound. Please recite aloud salawat. Imam Hussaini alayhi salam states, An-nasu abid dunya, that the people, majority of people, are slaves to this world. And unfortunately, they treat religion, they treat the deen like saliva, like spit in their mouth. This is what Imam Hussaini alayhi salam says about these people. That they treat deen, they treat Islam like saliva in their mouth. When it's to their benefit, they'll take it in, they'll swallow it. When it affects their sense of self-security or it's too challenging for them, they'll say, you know what, we're going to spit it out. Imam Hussaini alayhi salam says this. That this is how the majority of people perceive religion. When it's to their benefit, they'll take it in. When it's to their harm, they'll reject it. This is how they treated religion. And so because I want to live, this is what the people of Kufa said, because I want to live for another day, whenever the challenge becomes too great, then I want to move away from the deen. So dear brothers and sisters, the Ibn Ziyads and the Yazids of the time, they work to make this world look as everlasting and attractive and sweet and beautiful, and for the Muslims to forget about the hereafter. The Quran says that the mission of the forces of Shaitan is to make this dunya look attractive. That he decorates this dunya, he beautifies it. And they make it seem so everlasting that the Muslims, again, they forget about the hereafter. Now, Ma'mun, you all know, the Khalifa at the time of Imam Rida alayhi salam, who poisoned Imam Rida alayhi salam, he asks from his father Harun, who had Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam killed. He asks from him, O father, are you upon haqq? Are you the truthful one? Or is Musa ibn Ja'far, or is Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam the truthful one? Who is the one upon haqq? And Harun says to him, my son, of course it's Musa ibn Ja'far. How can I be in haqq in comparison to this Imam? Of course Musa ibn Ja'far is upon haqq. And Ma'mun, he's shocked, he's surprised. He says, oh father, if you really know that Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam is upon haqq, then why do you want to fight him? Why do you want to kill him? And do you know what Harun says back? He says, well, my son, although I know he's upon haqq, but you see, because I want to live this life of luxury, I know that if Musa ibn Ja'far remains alive, then this throne of mine is going to be threatened. This kingdom of mine is going to be threatened. So therefore I have to take him out of the way, I have to have him killed. And Ma'mun is shocked. He said, but this is your cousin. Because Banu Abbas come from a lineage which makes them cousins of from a far relationship. And Harun says to his son, listen, this is Musa ibn Ja'far I'm talking about. You are my son Ma'mun. Even if you were to look at my throne with your eyes of jealousy, if you look at my throne with jealousy, I'll have your eyes ripped out. Harun says this to his own son, that if you have any idea of trying to steal my life of luxury, I'll have you killed as well. See, brothers and sisters, this is the reality of this dunya. Anyone who attaches their love to this temporary dunya, it's like a disease which shall overtake their hearts. Please recite aloud salawat. And so someone who, this disease, when it sits in their heart, the love of this dunya, when it develops to such an extent, they're ready to sacrifice anything to safeguard it. So Ibn Ziyad, he says, if you want to live, then this is the price. Otherwise, I'll destroy your roofs over your homes. I'll have your families murdered. I'll have you burnt alive if you don't say Labbaik to Yazid, and if you don't go to Karbala and stand against Hussain ibn Ali. So it's a very tricky situation. Except for those, dear brothers and sisters, who had a true faith in Allah. People like Mitham Tamar, Habib ibn Madahir. And it's possible that, these people of Kufa, it's possible to say that if these 100,000 people just stood their ground, the plots of Ibn Ziyad would have failed. And it's possible to say that they wouldn't have martyred Imam Hussain alayhi salam if these 100,000 people didn't become fearful, didn't become weak in faith and line up in Karbala. Why? Because the first two minor groups, the ex-companions, those who became jealous and those who were anti-Islam from day one, they wouldn't have been able to stand against Imam Hussain alayhi salam and his companions by themselves. But this large group who travels from Kufa to Karbala, it said that they didn't even lift a single sword. They didn't even shoot a single arrow, these people of Kufa. They didn't even lift a single spear. And they didn't even throw a single stone. But they all go to Karbala, they all line up in Karbala, and they're ready to prove themselves to Ibn Ziyad, even if it means that Imam Hussain al-Islam is going to be killed. We're going to stand there so long as we can prove ourselves, just to announce to Ibn Ziyad that, listen, we want to live life. We want to live for another day. We don't want to get involved in politics. We don't want to get involved in this scenario of Zalim versus Mazlum. We don't want to get involved in this oppressed versus oppressed stuff. This has nothing to do with this. We care for ourselves and we care for our families. We are peaceful Muslims. This is what they said. Now, please recite aloud Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For us to, inshallah, increase our faith and increase our relationship and our pledge with the Imam of our time, that we won't be as those people were. Please recite a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam says in a hadith to one of his companions, Rayyan ibn Shabib, I'm sure a lot of you, especially the elders, have heard this hadith, where he says, "Oh Rayyan, if you want to cry for something, if you want to cry for anything, then remember the tragedy of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and it will become thawab. You'll find the nearness of Allah. If you want to cry for anything, then remember Imam Hussain alayhi salam." In continuation of this hadith, Imam Raza alayhi salam says to Rayyan that whenever the names of the shuhada of Karbala come up, if you wish you were amongst them, then say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum. And oh, how I wish I were with you, O shuhada of Karbala. And now, we have two types of wishes. One is an imaginary wish, where I wish for something but it's not possible. Then there's a realistic wish. The question is that Imam Raza alayhi salam and Rayyan ibn Shabib, his companion, are about 150 years late from the event of Ashura, from the event of Karbala. So when the Imam tells him to say, when you remember the companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, oh how I wish I were with you, O companions of Hussain. Is Imam Raza alayhi salam trying to tell his companion to just make an imaginary wish? No. This is an Imam Ma'asum. We have a narration which says that the word of the Imam is the Imam of all words. Every single thing that the Imam said is for a reason. So when Imam Raza alayhi salam, the brothers and sisters, is trying to teach something to the mu'mineen, Rayyan ibn Shabib, he tells them to say this whenever you hear the names of the companions. Say, oh how I wish I were with you. What the Imam is trying to teach is that the scene, the scenario of Karbala is for all ages. We mentioned this hadith before as well, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salam states, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Kullu yawmin Ashura wa kullu ardin Karbala. Ashura is an ongoing scenario. Every land is Karbala. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam teaches us. So, what this means is that, dear brothers and sisters, the Ibn Ziyads and the Umar bin Sa'ds and the Shimrs of every single era have the same mission. In every single era you'll find, on one hand you'll have the people who are oppressed, and then those who are the oppressors. The people of Haqq and the people of Batil. Those who are truthful and those who are based upon falsehood. So what they want is for us not to remain intact with Islam, not to raise our voices for the Muslimin, not to raise our voices when, for example, the Quran is burnt, to remain fearful, to remain silent. This is the character of a follower of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, dear brothers and sisters. A true Hussaini is one who lives by Karbala every single day. One of the most important characters, the most important companions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, who utilized and identified time and distinguished between Haqq and Batil at its right time, was this companion of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Hur, the free companion of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. There was a time where it was this same Hur, the commander of the army of Yazid, who was lost in these worldly desires. But on the night of Ashura, he realized something. He realized that, these people around me, Because everyone's going to die at the end anyway. Death is written for everyone. These people are ready to live a few more days and lose this dunya as well as the hereafter, just to gain a few coins in this temporary life of ours. They're ready to kill the son of Zahra. I need to do something, I need to change, I need to save myself at least before it's too late. Okay, brothers and sisters, take your hearts and minds to the land of Karbala. Tonight, we remember this great companion, Hur, the free soldier of Karbala, who utilized time at its right moment. Inshallah, with his remembrance, we can also utilize this time so that we may turn back to Imam Zaman Faraj al-Sharif before it's too late. Sallallahu alayhi ya ghareeb, ya madloom, ya Afshan, ya Abu Abdullah. Assalamu ala It's the love of your mother Zahra, salamullahi alayha, which attracted the heart of Hur from the camp of Yazid, from Jahannam to the heavens. On the night of Ashura, Hur realizes something. He says, let me turn back, let me repent to Allah before it's too late. We also ask Ya Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, take us back before it's too late. Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. Oh my beloved Imam, we know that we've disobeyed you. We know that we've committed so many sins, but if you could accept Hur, despite every single thing that he did, it was because of Hur that Sakina felt fear in her heart. O Imam Hussain, we know that we've committed many sins and mistakes, but at least we've gathered here in your love, Ya Zahra. We've gathered in the love of your beloved Hussain. The Imam says, let us go back to Medina. Hur blocks off the way to Medina. The Imam asks from him, what do you want from me? He says, oh Hur, may your mother sit in your grave. When Hur hears this, he responds, if it were anyone else, I would say the same about their mother. But what can I do that your mother is Sayyidat Nisa'il Alameen? Your mother is Fatima Zahra, sallallahu alayha. On the night of Ashura, he looks around at the army of Yazid. He calls his son. He says, listen, all of these people are heading towards the hellfire. Everyone will leave this world very soon. All of these luxuries around us will leave. الناس من الدنيا راحلة. Let's go towards Hussain. نلحقه بالحسين. Today I realize that these people are ready to kill Hussain. He goes towards the camp of Abu Abdullah. He calls up, هل لي من توبة يا ابن الزهراء? Do you accept my repentance? Forgive me, I know I'm very late. The Imam welcomes her. He says, lift your head, for you are the guest of Al-Hussein. Hur asks for permission. He apologizes to Sayyidah Zainab Salamullahi alayha. And on the day of Ashura, he faces this same army that he once commanded. He says, O people of Rufa, you're the ones who wrote a letter to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. You're the ones who invited him. Now you're ready to kill him. You're standing against him. How can you drink this water of Furat while the daughter of Zahra are thirsty? He fights against the enemies of Allah until he's injured and surrounded. They throw stones at him. Hur falls to the ground. He's breathing his final moments, and he's thinking to himself, Imam al-Hussein went to every single companion, but there's no way that Imam al-Hussein will come to me, because look at all the wrong that I've done against him. Suddenly he feels someone's embracing his head. Someone lifts his head and places it into his lap. He opens his eyes to see his beloved Maulana Hussain. The Imam kisses his forehead and he says, O Hur, you are free, just as your mother has named you the free one. Sallallahu alayka ya gharib, ya madloom, ya atshon, ya السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Please recite a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.